Well, just open up by saying it's been a long day. Having meetings with our own players and been here since 6 a.m. making sure that the signatures came in, and I think we got 90% of the class here. So let's go. The questions.
I guess I'll just start with Skinner, the guy you're bringing into your room. What do you like about his game?
Yeah, you can tell Skinner's probably the best athletic tight end I've signed since I've been here. Learned about him from a buddy in Charlotte that I played with the Panthers. He was coaching down there. He kind of told me about him, and then seen he was committed to Cincinnati. Started watching film, and I was like, there was another kid that that we were very high on that we were about to get. He went to another school. And sometimes it's kind of like with Josh Allen. I'm not comparing that situation, but we had guys decommit when Josh Allen, we took Josh Allen. Now this kid was a high 4-star kid. Found out he can run. He's like a 4.46 kid. He's about 6'4", about 228. I know South Carolina really, really wanted him. Ohio State, a lot of other schools came in on him, and we just built a relationship, came down in the spring. Me and his dad hit it off, and I'm telling you, that's one of the, I was holding my breath all the way until your signature came, because you just don't steal another kid out of another SEC school, and they really wanted him. So I'm very, very excited about him. He's going to be a good player.
It's just overall, how do you feel about that? All those guys have eligibility left, but Tanner and Jamari both announced today they're going into portals. How do you feel about the depth heading into the next year?
Have you watched some of them other guys that's in that room? Have you watched that freshman that's, 6'5", 245? I mean, of course, when I recruited the last couple of years, I knew I put a lot of good tight ends in that room, and even though we playing 12 personnel, guys, they want the ball, and I told them, when I met with Kamari, I said, hey, I understand there's going to be a lot of people that's going to want him. He's 6'5", 252, and he's a really good young player, and he wasn't ruling out that he wasn't coming back, but like I said, I got to do what I got to do on my side too. So, right now it leaves us with Caddis, Wooly, McHale, and we got to get Barton out to take one in the portal. Right now, I'm pretty having Caddis and Wooly in there. That's two pretty good tight ends.
So you do feel good about Cass coming back? So there was obviously a recruiting event over the weekend that will lead fans to question what exactly is going on.
Well, that's a totally two different situations. Y'all know who he is, his brother. That was like a dream school he wanted to go to, and he played very well. And like, let's be honest, I don't hide nothing. Our season wasn't that great, so it allowed people to start coming in the last minute in doubt. For us to sign all these guys and keep these guys signed with how the season went, I think was very impressive, because I used to do that against other schools, So, no, me and Caddis got a real good relationship. I'm very close with his mom and dad. When I talked to his brother, I just said, hey, I wished him well, told him I loved him, and you never know. Some things come full circle sometimes.
Speaking of that, when just other teams are prying away, especially a guy like Martellus Carter, where that's been happening for a long time. How do you keep those guys locked in even when the season doesn't go according to plan?
You gotta have relationships, and you gotta have good relationships with their parents, people who's close to them, but more than them, the prospect themselves. And me and Martellus got a really good relationship. And his dad, who's a high school coach. Some kids, they and for that young man, like everybody was at this kid all the way down to the wire. I'm talking about some pretty impressive schools, and he just stayed locked in. He was kind of pissed. That's what I'm telling you. We getting a good kid with him. When this one kid, decommitted, he called me. I was asleep. He called me 12 after midnight. It was like, Coach, what is this all? He wasn't happy, and he said, that's okay. That's okay. He said we're gonna be all right. So I love his leadership. He's in the state championship. The last time I felt like this, when I signed the kid, it was Mike Edwards. And so I think this kid has great leadership. He's good on both sides of the ball. He has good ball skills. He's tough. I remember Stu said he's the type of kid that he thought can play in the secondary when he was at Miami. That's how good this kid is, and he's a better person. Comes from a really good family.
So we ask you every year who your sleeper is, so who's the guy who's not getting enough attention in this place?
That's crazy because I should say he's a 4-star, but for some reason, Quentin Simmons is from the same school as Ryan Nichols, and they had the one kid that's the #1 player in the country now, another wide receiver that moved on. He's a 10-6, 10-500. If you look at him as a junior, I think he had 9 kickoff returns for touchdowns. He kind of reminds me of Barryon. He's going to be a really good kick returner here, and he is fast, and he comes from a very good program. I will say, keep an eye on him. I think with his return ability, he can really, with his return ability, he can make an impact as a freshman, like Barryon did. I'm not saying that's yet to be told because this kid is pretty. He can go. He's a good kick returner. So I'll say him.
Vince, you've had a really good relationship with fans. Obviously, disappointing year. Some fans are doubting why kids might want to come here in the portal, but also that. What's the message that you would just tell the fans to reassure that, hey, we're coming for you guys next year to make sure this doesn't happen again? And by you guys, the league, not the fans.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, you can bet. I was about to cut. You can bet sure that we coming. But I would say about players coming here. When we took over, it was 2-10. And it was a real bad situation, and we recruited at a high level. Recruiting ain't gonna never stop, and you will be amazed when that portal opened up how many players would choose to come here. I just think if you look at this class and look at some of the guys we signed, along with fill-ins. Like I never want to say we just going heavy portal, but fill-ins to fill into certain situations. Recruiting ain't gonna never be no issue here. I can put everything on that. We will get the players. I mean, we lost a kid, and I really love that kid. The kid, really a good kid, but how can you not? You cannot ignore what our season was like this year. And just like I told some of them coaches when I was recruiting before, when we were 2-10. I know who you are, and I'm keeping receipts, and you can bet this ain't over. So, you better enjoy it now because we had 9 winning seasons here, and it feels kind of weird that you're not going to go to a bowl game. I was telling my family, I said I could finally celebrate Christmas, relaxing because we was packing on Christmas Day, packing the day after Christmas. So this would be a nice little enjoyment of Christmas, but I don't plan on being at home on Christmas the next couple of years. This whole team won't, so, and staff. So, looking forward to what we're about to do with this roster.
How does Quizenberry translate to the SEC at that size? How does that work here?
I almost bust out over there when you said something about that we all of a sudden we took him. Let me tell you about Quizenberry. Everybody compared people to Wandale. It's like this guy won. This is the closest kid to Wandale Robinson that I ever seen. And what really told us, it kind of gave us the signature to say, okay, this kid can do it. They went to Ohio, and at that time, St. Ed's was the number 3 or 4 team in the country. And that's up in my neck of the woods. And when they beat them, I was shocked. I mean, I'm Hadis would be mad. I was shocked, though. I was like, what? Because remember, Douglas just went the year before and played a team less caliber. When I seen that, I went to Stoops and said, they beat St. Ed's. And he was like, what? And what he did, the reporter up there told me, who I trust very much, he said he was the best football player on the field. And he said them coaches was like, how's this kid getting out of the state of Kentucky? And we talked, and then he came to camp and just really just put on the show. I mean, this kid is very, in this state, but this kid is underrated nationally. This kid is he reminds me of Wandale. He's actually bigger than Wandale coming out of high school. I think this kid has a chance to really, because he's very balanced, he got low balance, he's powerful. I mean, they played him at every position, and he was very good at every position. So I'm excited about him. He is the closest thing. Everybody throw out, but he is the closest thing to Wandale Robinson. Even Wandale said he is. So I'm excited about him.
there's a couple guys in here who are pretty new to football, big kids, Atkins, Javion Campbell. So how do you get those guys caught up to speed to where, even if they are a little bit slow cookers, they cook a little bit campbell than normal?
Campbell's cooking right now because he had legit committable offers to everybody in the country. What everybody was offering him, I mean, I had to even pinch myself like, man, I must be pretty good that he turned down this one. What I really like about that kid, and I know Stu and Brad like about him, he's very powerful. My nephew John, this is a small little story. So my nephew John, who lived with me, this is about 6'9", they played a team in Frankfurt. And I was like, y'all lost? And they said, yeah, John kind of got, he kind of got beat up by this forward they had. And so I didn't go to the game. I didn't realize that was Campbell until he told me when I started recruiting. He said, I played against your nephew. And I said, oh, you the dude that beat the crap out of him. I said, what you do? And he said, I gave him 20 rebounds and 25 points. And so I was like, well, you're pretty good. So I think this kid, he's exactly what you look for. And then Atkins, if you've seen Atkins, I know you've seen him in camp, that's what SEC linemen look like. I mean, he's like Malachi. He might be bigger than Malachi. He's about 6'9". He's about 302, 305. All it's going to take him to be here 1 year, get under weight training, start eating right, and I think you're going to have a kid that's really should be playing on Sundays if he keep projecting what he's going to go, because he's a very good athlete. He can bend. He's smart. So I'm very excited what he's going to turn, what he will become.
Y'all talked a lot about what y'all learned from past portal mistakes. So how much has the process of evaluating portal talent changed in the football facility?
Well, I told you my philosophy, and what I said was, you need to treat this like the NFL. When I'm dealing with all the NFL guys, they come in, they send their scouts, then they send their player personnel people. Then when it's time to get drafted, they do kind of background checks on guys, because if you're going to spend money on guys, you need to know what you're getting. I'm not saying that's not what we did, but I think a lot of schools take these portal guys and they really, if they ain't have no connection to them, if they didn't recruit them out of high school, they really don't know what they're getting. And I just think, even talking to Mark, just doing a better, thorough, background, digging into their background of who they are. This is, whether we want to say it or not, this is like pro ball. So you better start treating it like pro ball. When these guys are making money and these guys are getting, they making more than some coaches. So you better do your homework and see who you're bringing in your building and see who they were at the other school and see, go back to their high school. Hell, when I got drafted, they went all the way back to my middle school. The Raiders did. I remember my gym teacher had told me that scout came to the middle school to ask what type of person I was. I mean, we talking middle school. So I just think you got to do some homework, and I'm not saying like we didn't know who we were getting, but you got to know who these guys are that you're bringing into your culture. That's what you got to do. Or it can turn out, because you look at all these schools that go the other way. Florida State, they bought a lot of guys, and I'm not saying speaking for them, but they bought in guys. They were good the year before, they bring in some guys, and then, it just happens. You got to do your homework.
How do you balance that familiarity? Because, obviously, with Wandale, that worked out really well. You had that connection before. Some other guys you brought in, you recruited out of high school, maybe from bigger schools, haven't panned out as much. How do you balance, knowing a guy and still knowing whether or not he can be what you need to be?
Well, like you said, Wandale, and then even Will, there was a connection. Liam knew Will. Liam knew, up in that area. I mean, you just talk about the impact guys, like some of the guys we brought in, they have, guys that were being recruited by some of our guys on our staff. So they did a home visit. They knew when they was in that home what the structure was. I think if you haven't done that, you really have to find some kind of way to know who these guys are. Because, I mean, I look at it like this. They may play well somewhere, or they may be a backup somewhere. They got good film, but do you really know who you're dealing with? So that is challenging, because you only got so much time, but you at least got to do some kind of research to know who these guys are. And that's what we are doing right now.
Do you feel that this season, attacking the portal, you guys are in probably the best situation you've been in terms of money, structure. It's not a huge secret. It feels like we were a little late to the coming all the way in, but it seems like you guys have a really good foundation with the 15 club and everything now. What does that look like in terms of how you guys are viewing this season and getting quality players, but also top guys that can change you next season?
Yeah, I think I know our support is where it should be now. Not that it wasn't like that in the past. You just got to learn. You got to just keep learning how this thing was going to go. But I'm very confident from Dr. Capilotto to Dr. Monday to Mitch, Mark Hill, everybody that's involved. The support is where we need to be now, and we're ready to go and tack it. I will say this though, it's like, because it's there, you don't just, use a phrase like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. There's a lot of chocolate out there. You don't just keep going and getting a whole bunch of chocolate. Know what's there for you. Know this is what you need to fill in on certain rosters, because we still got to build our roster from high school up. So you got guys that we took in the 22 class, 23 class that are still there. Now these are guys that we need to fill in, and I really believe we got the support to go do it. Not I believe, I know we do. Excuse me.
Time for a couple more. Anyone else?
Vince, what do you think on quarterbacks in this class? I know you have a relationship with Brendan for a long time at those schools.
All I know is this. I mean, Stu talked about Stone, and I think Stone's a really good quarterback. But Brendan, from where I'm from up in that area, Gahanna ain't been to the finals and all that in D1 football. And when he was a freshman, he took him to the first round. Then he took him to the second round. Then they lost the third round. This year was his probably worst team. But when you watch him, I say this all the time, he reminds me of Thad Prescott a little bit, his release, how he is. He's a very smart kid. He's a coach's son. And I know this, Liam watched him. The hardest thing when you bring a quarterback to camp and then you see the OC, both OCs watch them, they say, wow, this kid's pretty good. So I think we got two really good young arms, young guys. You got to have them. And, when it comes in, these guys will have an opportunity because both of them coming in January, I believe. So they're going through spring ball, and I think it's going to be good for both of them.
Vince, just having the offensive coordinator locked in when you're going into the portal right now, how much is that going to help you and the rest of the staff?
That's a great question, man. A lot of times we've been going in. He's a smart dude, right? He likes some of the smartest stuff, man. But I'm going to say this. A lot of times you be going in blinded because, we didn't have a coordinator. Going in and also having the same system this time says a lot. And, I think Bush's system, when you really look at it and you look at it on film, you're going, for what we're trying to target and get, I think it's going to be a good selling point. And you got to have continuity. I mean, you guys have been covering this. This will be the second year going in with the offense for 2 years, and I think that's going to be a plus. It really is.
All right, folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.